Hello and welcome to IGN's semi-regular look back at some of the best racing games ever made. I am Luke Riley, joining me is Cam Shea.
At this point, we're averaging one a month.
Yeah, in the words of mid-90s post-grunge band Stained, it's been a while. And I know you are well up to date on your post-grunge bands from the mid-90s.
I'm getting there. I'm a slow adopter, late adopter, you might say.
Yeah, it's
I heard this band the other day called Nirvana.
Weird.
Yeah.
Turns out there are so many other things we have to do other than playing 10, 15, 20-year-old racing games.
Yeah.
Weird.
I thought this job was paradise.
I
Luke.
know. But here we are, and here is the original Forza Motorsport from 2005, which we are playing because we are imminently about to get Forza Motorsport 6, and this is the 10th anniversary of this game that we are seeing the intro movie for now. Now, here's an interesting piece of information for no one but you. I never played this game when it came out.
Oh, really?
Didn't even own it. I bought the game that we're currently playing from Game Traders, which is, if you're not Australian, is a small second-hand games chain, for $5 at some point in the last 12 months or so to do some video content comparing the other Forza games. So yeah, that was the first time I'd ever owned the original Forza Motorsport. Back in 2005, I was working on a PlayStation magazine. B had just come off 6 months, like pretty solid playing GT4.
Right.
And I was already kind of addicted to Tonka Race Driver 3, which was called V8 Supercars. Tonka Race Driver 2, which is called V8 Supercars 2 down here. So I didn't really have any room in my life for another racing game. Everyone told me, "Oh, you're really gonna like this. It's really good." I'm like, "Oh, I'm sure it is, but you know, it's just kind of a GT clone, I guess. I'll see what comes of it." And by the time I played Forza 2, that decision was obviously incorrect. I should have played it, but I didn't. But when I've been playing this I played it yesterday and the other day, it's pretty remarkable to me just how many of the things that I associate with Forza now were really nailed out of the gate, which I thought is pretty interesting. One of the things that surprised me here we go, Speed Wheeze.
Oh,
just
again.
one letter.
Again, just give us
one more letter.
Oh, they're taunting you.
Yeah, it actually takes a leaf right out of the Gran Turismo book, not surprisingly, and locks most of its content away behind the progression, which is something they moved away from in the later Forza games, by just letting you go into that arcade mode and just play with any car, any track that they had, which I think is a better approach. But yeah, this Turn 10 was established in 2001 by Microsoft with the mission to build a simulation game for them. A simulation game with a vaguely Italian-sounding name that they could call their own, and this is what they did. And I honestly, it was a really, really good first effort considering.
So who are these guys? What was the pedigree of people who helped start this studio?
Well, some of them certainly came from like Midtown Madness and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Which was
from within Microsoft.
Within Microsoft. That was Dice Game. And they. What was I saying? One of the things that I guess would have struck me most if I'd have played this in 2005, 6 months after Gran Turismo 4, is just how many things it does that Gran Turismo wasn't doing at the time. And I know that Forza does a lot of stuff today that Gran Turismo still doesn't do, and myself, I've tried to kind of discuss this, and a lot of fans that are sort of demanding it. We wish Gran Turismo had like a livery editor like Forza.
Yeah. I mean, this has got like 3 or 4 moon buggies.
But yeah, I mean, at the time, it had damage. It had. Hang on, this is a career mode. Let me back out to arcade mode. It had damage. It had Ferrari. It had Porsche.
Yeah, right.
It had all of this. It had a really cool visual customization editor. All of this stuff is stuff that GT wasn't doing at the time. And
what about the broad selection of cars?
Well, here's the thing, right? The reason I adore GT4 for a variety of reasons. One of the things it had in it was a few Australian cars, which no one else was giving us at that time. Now, this doesn't have that, but it does have the kind of the kernel of the Forza's approach to car culture, global car culture that it's been doing for the past several iterations. Yeah. Where it seemed to have a more of a fairer representation of cars from all around the place, rather than GT, which honestly, it was 75 to 80% just Japanese Japanese cars.
Sure.
So actually, no. Yeah, let me back out to the hot laps because the arcade stuff is locked behind some progression walls, which I mentioned. So plenty of tracks.
What's the
Real
breakdown
tracks.
between real and fantasy?
Probably not quite 50-50. A few more fantasy tracks. There's a Rio. Here we go. There's a Rio track which has come back for Forza 6.
Oh, okay.
That's a big showcase track that they've
Yep.
been doing a lot of demos for. This is the Blue Mountains Raceway, which is clearly a kind of a riff on Bathurst, an unlicensed riff on Bathurst. But yeah, no, it's got a really good selection of cars. It's got about 230 cars.
That's very respectable.
Yeah. You know, it's easy to say that. It's easy to say, yeah, sure. You know, GT4 had 800, but this is the first. This is their first go.
Yeah, I mean, it still took a lot of work to put together a car model in 2005.
Well, yeah, it's all relative, like, you know.
Yeah.
So, you suggested line that, you know, the green line on the track, that was a big thing. I don't know. I should fart around with this stuff.
So
too much.
slightly, not
Just line
quite
on
the
off.
same level of tweakability as the later games.
Yeah, not quite, but it's all kind of there, you know.
And was this designed to be immediately accessible in the same way as the later games are, or was this really trying to be a simulation first and foremost, or where was the line for you, do you think?
I think it was trying to be that game for everyone, basically. Right. Yeah, it's really accessible because they got all those driving aids, but it also has a lot of depth with the tuning. It's got a lot of the right cars, I want to say, like the right cars that are attracted to the right, you know, the right kind of car people are attracted to. And what I think, you know, the graphics are obviously very dated at this point, and the sound is actually quite pretty poor.
Right.
But by today's standards, exceptionally poor. But I think it wouldn't have been altogether exciting back in 2005. But in terms of the handling, still it's all good.
Got a bit of weight.
Yeah, it's got a great sense of weight.
Well, the Turn 10 guys were very, physics simulation based right from the get-go. So they always took the simulation aspect of the driving very, very seriously.
Oh, actually, I wanted to hit a wall as well because I'll go out to the external view. Here's another great little touch that I picked up on, is when you strike a wall.
Oh, you left the
colour.
paint. Yeah. Nice.
GT wasn't doing that.
Yeah.
That would have made me aroused back in the day.
Yep.
But yeah, it's a great fit. You know, the handling's there. This is a Porsche, obviously I chose, which you still can't get in Gran Turismo. You can't get anywhere else basically except from an EA game.
Yeah.
But one other thing I do want to quickly show you. Let me back out of here before we wrap up. Is okay. You know this Drivatar thing, right? Where the game kind of tracks your driving behavior and it kind of builds an AI profile, and then that AI profile goes off and races on your behalf.
Yep.
Etc. Etc. That and this is something I noticed before, but I wanted to show you now. That started way back here on the Xbox One, the Xbox numeral 1. I just need to remember where to find it. Career mode. Train Drivatar. Here we go.
What?
Yeah, so what we do, right, is you can... Here's my Drivatar. His name is Drivatar.
Clever.
Yeah.
Better than Speedweeze, I guess.
Speedweeze. And what you do, which I did this yesterday, so you got to go in and you do a series of lessons to basically... I don't know. It's all the corner types are kind of separated.
So the way you want to attack each style of corner.
Yeah. So basically, I'll duck into the first one because it's a short track, Tsukuba, and it puts you in a certain type of car. And each different corner type you hit, like hairpin or a sweeper or so and forth, like a kink. And how well you attack that and how well you nail it gives you a rating after each corner, and then you get an average at the end of each sort of attempt, and then that gets tracked across all your attempts.
I see.
And so your Drivatar, so to speak, has this certain abilities on certain corners.
Dynamically changing as you keep updating the scores.
And if you go out and you do a really poor session and you see your average drop, you can dump that data.
Oh, I see.
But one of the really interesting things that I picked up on is that what you can do, or what you could do back in the day, I guess you could do it now, is you can put your Drivatar on some, like a memory whatever, and then take it to friends' place, and they can load that Drivatar data into their own game, and they can race your Drivatar. God, I hate that view. On their own Xbox numeral 1, which I thought was really neat. So that first corner doesn't count because that was a standing start. But when we go up here, you'll see a percentage. Now, depending on how well I take this corner, I'll either do it better than I usually do or worse, and it'll tell me now. Okay, so I've actually taken that corner worse than my average.
Well, you're under pressure.
Well, yeah. You know, I'm just trying to speak.
Nobody can see,
Constant
but
radius.
I'm actually poking you while you're doing this. Like, just don't mess this up. Don't mess this up. You got your IGN's simulation racing expert. You got to look badass.
Yeah. So
the Weezatar has to live.
Yeah, speed Weezatar. So this is a short track. I'll probably need to. It'll only take about a minute or so to do each lap.
And what's the online component for this game?
Well, this game, it was interesting because you could play the career mode online against real people, and it would still progress through the career mode as well.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
I mean, online was always a weakness of the PS2. I don't remember playing anything online on PS2.
Well, PS2 you had to get the network adapter.
Yeah, the network
right?
adapter and all that garbage. It was
like nobody's doing that.
And online. The online racing for Forza has been a big part, been a really big pillar of the experience, and that started way back here.
It is interesting, though, the games that were once a technical showcase, but are now, because this has dated a lot worse, I feel, than some of the other games we've looked at in this series.
Yeah.
But I guess it's not really about that because the features and the identity and all that stuff was there, and of course, it's going to keep pace with technical innovations as it goes.
Yeah.
So we're now at the point where a lot of these features have expanded out, and the Forza series looks absolutely phenomenal.
You know what's dated the most, actually, and it's not something that anybody would have heard, particularly yourself, because we've got the volume down. But the crazy instrumental versions, the Junkie XL remixes of like ZZ Top.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They're actually, there's a certain quaintness to them 10 years on, but they're certainly not any good.
I'm going, after we stop recording, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to play this game for a little while to listen. Because this is back in the day when Junkie XL was the guy who did video game soundtracks.
Yeah.
I remember, I interviewed him at one point.
Oh, is that right?
Because he just did so many game soundtracks.
He is a name that I do recognize from many a video game soundtrack.
Yeah.
Look at that, 81%. I'm nailing it, Cam.
You're great, Luke.
Yeah.
I consider you a role model.
Oh, that's a really nice thing of you to say, Cam.
In racing games and life.
So we come up to this final sweeper and we'll cross over the line. You get your 3 laps in. And then I'll get a breakdown of how my performance has trained my Drivatar, so to speak, and whether or not I've improved my average in any particular corners or worsened it. And then I actually pitted my Drivatar against the AI yesterday afternoon.
So that's
he crashed on the first corner.
Oh, what an idiot!
Yeah.
So that's kind of the end game.
Well, yeah, the end game. It's kind of like GT4 had the.
Because obviously you're not really training your Drivatar up just to take it around to your friend's place. There's got to be other stuff to it.
Yeah. Okay. So here we go. In this case, I've spent about an hour doing this yesterday. So yesterday it was moving around quite a bit because it didn't have a lot of data, and now there's more data there now, so it moves.
This is a very accurate Riley graph, if you were.
So this is me an hour into 2005's Forza Motorsport, but you said it against the opposition. GT had a thing, or it still did up until GT 5. B-spec mode, where you just send in the AI,
right,
and it'll race against the opposition.
That's right. Yeah,
and you'd make money. Forza's had it in as well when you'd hire a driver, but you didn't have to do any of this stuff in the later games. You just hire a driver, and that driver would take more cash depending on their overall skill. You didn't have to train it with this sort of level of granularity.
Yeah.
But so then you save it, or you discard it, you save it, and your Drivatar, so to speak, improves. So yeah, but it's funny, all those little ideas, they start. This idea kind of started 10 years ago, and now it's sort of the technology's allowed them to bring it to a place where now we can just track people's performance, without them actually having to do anything. Like you don't have to go to a discrete mode and deliberate, because this thing, your Drivatar doesn't learn things from just racing. Right? You have to go to this mode.
Yeah, it's very clunky implementation, but the idea is
the idea was there, and then 10 years later. Well, actually, we came in Forza 5, but yeah. But that's Forza Motorsport. That is
cool.
Basically, I've only spent a few days with it, and like I said, I confess that I didn't play it when it first came out. Probably should have.
Yep. But you picked up with number 2.
Yeah, I picked up with number 2. I played the hell out of that. But yeah, man. There we go.
It's good to kind of see where it's come from, because I'm even later coming to the Forza series. I think the first one I really seriously played was 5.
Yeah.
I played 4 a bit, played 5, played the Horizon games, and I really like it. I really respect what they do, especially since I'm not particularly simulation oriented. I want something that's quite arcadey, and Forza has the ability to be tweaked in any direction you want it to be, really, to find the handling that you want.
So yeah, let's see if my Drivatar can handle the first corner here before we sign off in my brand new Saab.
I think we should train your Drivatar to just do these Taco Tuesdays for us.
Well, actually,
that might not be a bad idea.
That is genius.
We'll just send him into other racing games, and we can talk while he races.
But as always, if you have any games you want us to exhume from the bargain bins of the world, or indeed our own libraries, hit me up at Mr. Luke Riley on Twitter or at Jazzabration.
And yeah, for me, the quirkier and I guess more Japanese or arcade-oriented, probably the better. I'm interested in just revisiting some weird, lesser titles that are ideally still fun now.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing, is I want an excuse to go back in and play these games for a few hours.
Yeah. And for me, if you could... that was hopeless. Look at that. And for me, if you could suggest anything that I was already planning on doing or already own, that would be super helpful. That would totally justify me doing this. But thanks again, and we will speak to you, whenever.
As soon as we can.
As soon as we can.
Yeah, we like doing this.
Cheers.
Okay, bye.